Good day people, welcome to another tutorial on Inkscape. Today we will be looking at three basic things, which are clipping, grouping and the text tool. Without further hesitation, let's get started.
Let's begin with clipping. Clipping is used to place an image or an object inside another image or inside a container. Other software call this power clip. To demonstrate this, let me insert an image. To insert an image, I'll head over to the right hand panel here. You will see a two file icon with arrow. The first one, the arrow is pointing towards the file, that is import. That is, you import an image or an SVG file into your document, while the other one is pointing outside of the document, and which is export. So right now we want to import an image, so we'll click on the first one with the arrow pointing to the document. So when you click on it, you head over to what you want to import. For this video, I'm importing an image, so I will select the image I want. You can either double click or click open to import the image. It will bring out a pop-up which will show some basic settings. I like to leave mine the default Inkscape setting, and if you don't want this pop-up to be coming again, you can click the checkbox don't ask again and it won't show again. So for this, I'll leave the setting like this and I'll click on OK. Alright, so this is our image. So the way clipping works is it helps us to like crop the image into a specific size, or you can place the image into another object or a shape. For instance, let me insert a circle. I'll just click on my create circles or ellipse tool. You can see the shortcut is E on your keyboard. So I'll hold down my control to draw a perfect circle while I'm drawing. Then I'll place the circle over the face of the image. That is, I want the image to be on this circle. So mind you, when you are clipping, the container you want the image to be in will be on top of the image, not the other way around. So you will resize it to the position you want it. I want the circle to cover the whole of the face, so let me increase this a little bit. I'm holding down Ctrl and Shift to maintain the same ratio while I'm increasing the size. Okay, so now the circle have covered the whole of the face. So now what I want to do, I want to clip it. That is, I want the image to enter inside the circle. So while holding down my Shift, I'll click on the circle and then the image. There are two ways to clip. You can go to Object, come to Clip and click on Set Clip, or once you have your two objects selected, that is the container and the image, you just right click and you come to Set Clip. So you can see the image is now inside the circle. The good thing about this clipping tool is that it does not completely crop the whole of the image to be as a form of circle. If you don't want that again, you can release it or undo the clipping. That's the benefit of this clip tool. So once you right click again, you will head down and you will see release clip. So once you click that, you can see that the image is now out of the circle. You can also use this clipping tool as a way of cropping your image. Let's say for instance, I want to crop the image and I want it to stop at the head here. I don't want the remaining parts of the body to show, so I can use my square tool. So I can click and drag the parts which I want to keep in the image. Yeah, and I want the image to stop here. I can click on my select and transform tool and adjust my square while I zoom in. So I adjust it down to the end, do the same thing here. So these are the parts I want to keep in the image. So this is also a way you can use to crop images. So once I have my Shift, when I hold down on my Shift, I click on the object or my container, then I click on my image as well. So I just right click and click on Set Clip. So you can see the image has been cropped. So this is a very wonderful tool you can use to place object inside another object, or you can use it to crop a tool, and you can do for 2 or more images or objects. Let's say for instance, let me release this clip. Okay, then let me insert another image. Let me insert another image. The shortcut for inserting an image aside coming to this bar here is to just click on Ctrl I on your keyboard. So once you click Ctrl I, it will bring out that pop-up, and then you can select another image you want. So let me select a different image. Let's say for instance this now. So the pop-up for the image will still show now because I did not click the checkbox. So it's still showing now. I'll just click on OK. Then my image would appear here. Alright, so let me resize this image a little bit. Alright, so I can clip this image, these 2 images together into a shape. Let's say for instance I want this image I just imported here now, and also the circle, and also this other image. And by the way guys, anyone who knows the name of this guy right here, please comment down in the comment section. I have something for you. Alright, let's continue with the tutorial. So if I bring back my circle at the front of the image, I want this both image of this chicken here and the other image of the man to be inside the circle. So I'll bring the circle forward by heading over to the top bar here and click on this raise selection to the top. So another way to do that, you can just right click and okay, the only way to do that is to come over to this bar and raise selection to the top. So while holding down my Alt, I will click the other image which is at the back, which is this one which I cannot see, and then I'll switch to holding down my Shift and click the other image. Then I click on my circle, or I can just basically highlight everything together, so everything will be clicked on. Then I right click and click on set clip. So you can see that the 2 images are now inside the object. So that is a way to put 2 images inside an object or a container. So I can equally right click and click on release, so it will release the clip. They are no more clipped together. So that is basically it for the clipping tool in Inkscape. So the next one we'll look at is grouping. Just like the name implies, it is used to group 2 or more images, objects or shapes together to become one. So let's demonstrate. For this, let me delete this image and let me put this square at the middle, and let's take the circle to the top. Okay, there's another image here, so delete. Oh, 2 circles. Oh, all right. So let's say for instance we have placed 2 objects together like this square and circle. Let me reduce the size. I just highlighted them both. While holding down Ctrl and Shift, I will reduce the size so they will maintain the same aspect ratio. So let's say for instance I have combined these 2 shapes, which is the circle and the square, to form a whole shape. But when I try to move them, you can see that I'm moving them individually. I can't move them together as a whole, except I have 2 of them highlighted together. But what if I don't want to have to highlight the 2 before I can move them together as one? That is where the grouping comes in. You can group these 2 images together, and once they are grouped, you can move them together, apply same changes together on them. So the way to group, you can either right click and click on group, or you click on Ctrl G on your keyboard, which is the shortcut. So you can see now they are now as a one image, so I can move them together without having to highlight them both, and I can just apply changes to them as a whole. You can see, so you can see when I click on a color, you can see that the color has changed totally. But if I want to change the color of an individual, maybe just for the circle like I just did earlier, I just drag a color to where the circle is, and you can see that only the circle has changed color. But if I want a total change of color to the two shapes, I can just click on it and just click on a different color. I can see that the two shapes are changing color simultaneously. Not just the color, other settings like the stroke setting, the opacity, the blur. Once I do all of them on this shape, it will apply to both the square and the circle. Let's say, for instance, let's adjust the stroke. Let's change the stroke paint to this, and let's increase the stroke size. So I'm a bit fast with these settings because I've covered everything about the paint and the stroke tool in my previous video. So if you have not seen that, I would advise you check them under this playlist. So you can see that once I make any changes to a stroke, it applies to both of the shape, not just one. Everything is now considered as a one shape, but they are not completely blend together as one shape. You can see that this stroke is overlaying on this other stroke, which there's another way to do that, which we'll cover in a previous video. But for this video, that is it about the grouping. And if you don't want them to be grouped again, you want to ungroup them, you can right click and click on ungroup, or you hold Ctrl Shift and G on your keyboard to ungroup them, and they won't be a group anymore. So this is not just limited to two shapes. Like I said in the definition, it's a grouping of two or more shapes. You can have more shapes together. Let's say we have another circle here at the bottom. So let me duplicate this circle by clicking on Ctrl D on my keyboard. So it is already duplicated. Then I click and drag. Let's say we have another circle at the bottom, and we have this other one at the top. Let's also try to insert a triangle. We can do that by clicking on this, our stars and polygon tool. So when we click on it, we click on new polygon, we click and drag, and we reduce the size to 3 to give us a triangle. So we have a triangle here now. Let me rotate this and reduce the size. We reduce the size a bit to kind of match that of the square. Then I place it here. Okay, let me zoom in a bit. This from here. All right, so it has matched that of the square now. So you can see that we have 4 shapes here. So just like we did with the 2 shape, we can group everything together. Once we highlight everything and we just right click or click on Ctrl G on our keyboard, which is a shortcut, you can see that everything is now a one shape. Let me rotate this because it's looking like a house, kind of a house. So yeah, that's cool. So just like we did previously, we can apply changes to this. We can just click and select another color to give this a different color. You can see that the color changes is applying to the whole of the shape, and we can remove the stroke outline by just holding down Shift and clicking on this X mark here. You can remove the stroke. You can see that the shape is without the stroke now. Or while holding down Shift, we can click on any color here to give it a different stroke color. Let's match the stroke with the fill color. Let's give it this color for the stroke and also for the fill. You can see everything now is now a whole shape. And just like we did on the two, what if I just want to change just the color of the triangle? I'll just click and drag a color right on top of the triangle without having to ungroup them first, and you can see that only the color of the triangle has changed. So that is it about the grouping part. Also, to ungroup, you just right click and click on ungroup. So that is it. The next one here we are looking at is the text tool. You can find the text tool here on the left hand side of your toolbar, which is this A, or you can click on T on your keyboard to activate the text tool. The text tool is just basically all the settings you can do to a text. You can use it to impute a text, do a lot of setting that you will to a text, and select different font style and font size. So I have the text to click on here, and you can see my cursor is blinking, which means it's expecting me to type something. So I'll just go ahead and type something here. So just as you have known by now, Inkscape remembers the last setting we use on an image or object, so it will apply it to whatever we are to doing, except we decided to now change it. So it's picking the color for my previous setting, but the default color for a text in Inkscape is black, but let's just go with this, or let me change it to black, and you can see it pick the same stroke setting. And basically the stroke setting and the fill color setting for the text tool in Inkscape is pretty much the same thing we did for the shapes. So you can just select a different color from here, and also you can come and select different color for stroke here. Also you can also adjust the stroke setting by reducing or increasing the width of the stroke from here also. So the setting is the same thing we talked about in our previous setting for that of shape. So I'll just go into the other settings we can do for a text. So let me bring the text over here. And so before you can activate any other setting for a text, you have to make sure that you have the text tool selected while you have selected the text. Like for instance, I've used my select and transform tool to select this text I have just written, but to apply some changes I have to make sure that the text tool, which is A here on the toolbar, or I'll just click on T on my keyboard to activate it. You have to make sure that it is also selected. Then you can see a whole lot of text setting is shown up here. So this first one here, if I click down this drop down arrow, is for me to select a different font style. So you can see you have different kind of font style here. If you have other font style installed on your system, you will also find them here. So you can pick on different kind of font style you want. So let me just select this. So also this is the font style of the font you just choose. So you can see that it's on bold. I can make it normal, which is not to be bold, but let me just, okay, this has only one, which is normal. So, and this is the font size. You can see the font size here is 144. I can reduce it all the way down to 64. You can see it's a lot smaller now. I will have to zoom in. And this is the measurement of the font style. You see it's using points. You can measure the font style in inches, you can measure it in centimeter, and so on. This is the distance of between two texts. Let's say for instance, let me add another text below this one I've just written. Let me just say is open. Okay, this setting here tells us, it helps us to reduce or increase this particular space here, which is the space between the first text at the top and the other text at the bottom. So once I click on this plus button, you can see now the text are not together. So if I want to increase the space, I can just continue clicking on the plus button, and you can see that the space is increasing. I can make it to even increase down, and it will maintain the same setting if I click on enter to type another thing below this text. You can see that the previous space, which is this one here, is maintained here. So you take note of that when you are increasing the size. If there's a need, you have to come and reduce the size again. So you can just know that it's maintained the same size for for all the line. It will maintain the same spaces in between. So let me just click on Ctrl Z and leave only the first text I have selected, or I can just hit cancel, or I can just highlight all of it and hit the space bar on my keyboard to delete the spaces. So this is also the measurement of that space which we talked about, and you can see the measurement is in lines. You can measure it in centimeter, in inches, in point, whichever way you want. And sorry, let me hit Ctrl Z to bring back my text for this setting. Okay, let me reduce this space which I just given here. Okay, so for this next one here is the text alignment. If you are familiar with using Microsoft Word or WPS Word document, you will be familiar with most of this setting. This is the alignment. Currently now all the texts are aligned to the left hand side, so you can see they are moved to the left hand side. You can align them to the middle by clicking on this. You can see that the text are aligned at the middle. You can also align them to the right hand side, just like this. So this is just the way you align the text. That does it about that setting. Then this spacing is the spacing between each alphabet in every word you have just typed here. So this spacing is the spacing between each alphabet in every word which you have just typed. So when you increase this space here, is expected that the space between each alphabet is increased. So let's see, let me make this 50 so we can see significant changes. Sorry, I think I will have to have them highlighted, or highlight the whole of the text. Then let's say I increase the spacing. I think this should be it. Sorry, let me increase this one here. Okay, yeah, this is it. So this one at the top here is actually the spacing between each alphabet in every word we have just typed. You can see that the space between L and U for this first text here has increased because I just increased the space here. I can also reduce it down to 0, that is no space, then they will return back to default just the way they were. So that's it about the text setting. There are other text settings that are available which we'll look at in depth on a different video, but let me just show you a few. So once you head over to your window bar up here, you see a dedicated menu here which says text. So you can bring out the text and fonts here which we have discussed. You can make an SVG font editor. Maybe you have an SVG file you want to edit, but the one I want to talk about here is how you can put a text on a part. Let's say for instance we have a circle here. Let me duplicate this circle, move it here, and let me increase the size of this circle. So and then I'll take the text up here. So you can wrap this text around this circle or around this part by just clicking on the text, holding down your shift and clicking on the circle. Then you go to the text menu bar here, then you click on put on part. You can see that the text is now wrapped around the part. Let me try rotating. Okay, yeah, we can rotate it. So once you rotate it, it will come to the top just as you wish. There are easier way to do this with the parts effect, which we'll discuss in the upcoming video, but this is just basically how you can wrap a text around a shape. And there should be a way to separate the text, I think. Let's see. Okay, if we delete the text, it will remove. Let's try separating the text from the circle. Okay, yeah, we can separate the text. Once you click on the text, you can move it around, you can separate the text. So we just make the text curved. So there are easier way to do that. We'll discuss that in the previous video. So that's it, guys, about this video. We have talked about the clipping tool, we have talked about the grouping, and now also we have talked about the text. I strategically bring out these 3 tools to discuss about them, because in my next video we'll be using all what we have learned from the first video up to this point to design a well and functioning flyer design. So I like to go with practical. So if you have been following this video from the beginning and you have learned all these tools, you want to see how you can really apply them into a graphics design project, we'll be doing that in the next video. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, share to your friends that you know it will be helpful to, and I will see you guys in the next video.